Water movement was so powerful. And they're actually already starting to clean all of this up because that we're working, trying to get all of these trees out of here. Still so much more work to be done. And there's still more than 160 people still missing here in Kerr County.
In New Mexico, at least 3 people died after a storm last night triggered flooding, and 5 people are dead in Guatemala following an earthquake. Residents of one of the hardest hit towns now sleeping outside due to aftershocks. Amazon is disputing an initial report by sales tracking group Momentum Commerce showing Prime Day sales are off as much as 41% on the first day compared to last year. Amazon, for the first time, stretching its sales event over 4 days. This is ABC News. Israel's prime minister left the White House today after rounds of talks this week with both President Trump and lawmakers on a Gaza ceasefire deal. President Trump signaling, though, that he thinks they're moving closer to ending the war. Here's ABC's Louis Martinez.
The main sticking point right now appears to be how Israel would withdraw from the southern city of Rafah. Of course, that's a main city that has been the target of main Israeli offensive operations. And the question for them is, how do they pull back? Because Israel says they need to maintain a presence in Rafah to ensure Israel's security. Hamas, of course, wants guarantees that Israel is going to pull out from there.
New data from the CDC shows 1 in 3 teenagers now has prediabetes. With prediabetes, blood sugar levels are high, but not high enough to be considered type 2 diabetes, which is linked to heart disease and other conditions. Health experts say kids need to eat healthier and stay active. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Are you over 50 and constantly feeling tired, bloated, or just a little off? Don't ignore it. Those could be signs that your liver is crying for help. As we age, our liver, which is essential for metabolism, digestion, immunity, and detoxification, needs extra support and protection. If neglected, it can leave you feeling sluggish and constantly off your game. That's where Active Liver from New Nordic comes in. Available in easy-to-take tablets or delicious gummies, Active Liver combines powerful natural ingredients like turmeric, milk thistle, and globe artichoke extract to help support healthy liver function. With Active Liver, you're giving your body an essential daily defense against toxins from alcohol, fatty foods, and sweets, helping you reclaim your energy, improve digestion, lose the bloat, and strengthen your immunity so you can look and feel your best again. Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves by making Active Liver from New Nordic part of your daily wellness routine. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grogan.
Hello, the Common Sense Conservatives right here, WSMN. Looks like we are short one man, Chris. I think Mr. McKinley may be AWOL this evening.
Well, that happens from time to time. You know, we've all got other responsibilities. Can't always be here. I'm not sure what Todd's up to there, but I was having a little trouble picking up your microphone there. I don't know if there was a gain issue. Maybe it's just on my end.
I was sensing that too, and I'm wondering if let me check.
I got you now, but I did crank up my volume a little bit here.
Okay, because I was thinking the same thing for a second there. Yeah, I don't know. Todd may pop in here. We do have a guest waiting to come in, but or he was. Yeah, he's still here. Yeah. Well, before we in a second.
Get him in a second, but let's run through a couple of highlights here very quickly before we do. Yeah, as we usually do when we start the program every time we do have a guest to just get people up to date there. You heard the news at the top of the hour, but of course the big story at the moment, there's 2 major stories for the U.S. One is the tariffs that President Trump has sent the letters out the past 3 days, and the other, of course, is the horrific situation that unfolded in Texas on the 4th of July. What a tragic situation. We'll talk later in the program about how the demonic left tried to blame President Trump for this, for non-existent budget cuts to National Oceanographic Administration, as well as the National Weather Service, things that haven't taken place yet. They're blaming him for that. And we're finding out, of course, that there was decisions made at the local level that had an impact. And it is, of course, an act of God that is unprecedented. But the blame game started right away. Now they've shifted away from that. But we'll talk about those 2 things in the next hour after our guest. We've got hopefully we'll get Todd McKinley in here shortly. But our guest will be coming up here in just a few minutes, and we're going to really tonight focus in the second hour a lot on this flood and the aftermath of it, and also the tariffs, which are having a major impact on U.S. trade potentially. But one of the interesting things so far is that since the tariffs have been applied since the beginning of this year, and then more specifically tariffs in April, the reciprocal tariffs, the U.S. economy has not experienced inflation. In fact, inflation is running lower now than it has in decades. Under President Trump, inflation is currently running at less than 1% per year. Yet the Federal Reserve continues to hold our interest rates at 4.5% of the prime lending rate, which is crippling growth in the economy. Even so, the economy is still growing, and it's healthy at the moment, despite what Jerome Powell is doing. This guy is really causing lots of problems. We're going to talk about that in the second hour as well. Anyway, so John, any luck getting hold of Todd?
Nope, I have not seen. Let me close this out. Nope, he has not came in yet. No.
All right, no worries. I like our background this week. We got Old Glory there.
Well, we've had that for a few weeks now. You just not picked up on that?
Well, it hasn't been showing on my end.
That's kind of weird. No, I've been flying that one for a while. I also have another one I loaded up in here. For those that can't see what we're talking about, we got a background of a flag on our social media post, and I've got this other one that's not.
Well, I may have missed it because we usually have three people. I like the other one better. We had three people in the window. I may have noticed because it was a little more less. That's a little too noisy. The other one's better. Yeah, that's better. Yeah. And then so we actually had four. We had the guest last week, but tonight let's talk a little bit about our guest who's with is it Buck Up Relief? Is that Relief Mission?
Yeah, that should be it. Buck Up Relief Mission. Let me bring him on in here.
Okay.
Mr. Vince Saben, how you doing, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing well, but you would sound like you may have a bad connection.
A little bit.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
You are the founder. Yep. Yeah, you sound a little better now. So you're the founder, and you operate. Go ahead.
Yeah, originating founder of Bucket Up Relief Mission. We worked at disaster relief, other Christian patriot groups to bring disaster relief and search and rescue to disasters in the country.
And you've been doing this for a while now. How long have you been doing
You'll have to. I started with Hurricane Andrew in Florida back in the what was that, early 90s, and I've just been doing it ever since, where I've done tornado relief, hurricane relief. We were in East Palestine when the train derailed. So I've been doing it a little while. We started Buck Up Relief Mission with Hurricane Helene and have put a fabulous group of people together.
All right. Yeah, you've been doing it for a while, since Hurricane Andrew. That was a long time ago, man. That was, wow, I remember that. I was down there during Hurricane Andrew doing disaster relief. That place looked like a war zone. It was nuts.
You would have swore an atomic bomb went off down there.
Oh yeah, you couldn't find a street.
That was so devastating.
That thing went up and hit New Orleans right after. Did a lot of damage up there too. So we find that we need folks like you, don't we? You kind of pick up the slack where the federal government can't quite fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I mean, the federal government does well now. Administration seem to be doing what they should, but we're different from other organizations because everything that we bring in goes right back out to the people. We're all volunteers, and we all go by, doing it without getting paid to do it. Any funds that we collect go back to support the search and rescue efforts, to put fuel in trucks, to move the trucks and bring in the supplies. So that's the big difference with us. We're grassroots patriots. We believe that this country was founded on neighbors helping neighbors. It wasn't founded on a government. if your barn burned down or you needed a new barn built or something like that, all the neighbors came together and built the barn. Well, we go by that pretty much that same thought is, we can't, the government can only do so much. And so we all got to stand together and put it together to make it all work.
Absolutely. There's a lot to be said for that. Communities picking up the slack and stuff and building strengths among one another. We saw that happen with Helene there in North Carolina, where Biden's administration was awfully slow getting in there. But it took them 2 weeks, I think, to get in there. And with the local folks, they picked it up the next day. They were like, hey, the storm's over. Now we got to do some cleanup, find our family, find our friends. And that's what really counted, don't you think?
Yeah, we were in there within 48 hours.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. So yeah, you were setting up within 48 hours. You're having a bad
the first 2 days. Yeah, I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and they gave me a load that I have to get there by 5 in the morning. So, I'm sorry about that. If I can find a place to stop, I will. But yeah, we were organizing right off bat to get ready to go, and we developed Buck Up Relief probably in. So this time we were a little bit more prepared. The storm hit, and by the next morning we were already working on getting everything together. One of the groups that we work with, Remnant, they already had boots on the ground within hours of the flood. So we try to react pretty quickly and be prepared to do so.
All right. So is that what you're doing now? Are you on your way for disaster relief, or this particular run right now is just a load?
Yeah. It's a roundabout way to get to North Carolina, you could say. I have a load that I'm picking up on Friday morning in North Carolina that will be running out to Texas. We're also working on a couple of hotshot trucks that are picking up things in other states. But with North Carolina, we ended up with a couple of warehouses full of stuff that can be distributed. So we're going to draw from that for our first load.
All right. So how much you've been doing this for a long time? You said I'm trying to get my thoughts together here for you. Chris, have you got questions here?
Yeah, let me jump in there really quickly. Hey, Vince, it says Buck Up. Now, are you the guys who go into remote areas on horseback to deliver relief? Is that one of the things you do?
We have a network of guys that do that. We had guys that had gone in and were running things up the mountains in North Carolina on horseback and mule. And so I network with them. Our primary side of it is bringing the supplies in. But we're all networked together as much of a team as we could be. But there are separate organizations that are all grassroots and all volunteers that do that.
All right. So what you guys do is you're moving the relief supplies and material that's needed from place to place. You're doing the transport portion of critically needed things, correct?
Right. We're doing the transport, and we also support the search and rescue teams that go in. We try to make connections to get them housing while they're there, have their necessities that they need to have, so that, and at the same time, we work on the backside of making sure that the area of devastation gets covered. What we found in North Carolina is everybody concentrated, or the mainstream media concentrated on Asheville, and there was so much devastation outside of Asheville. So a lot of support went into Asheville right off the bat, and the high country and the back country of North Carolina, the smaller towns, weren't getting it. So we try to diversify. I mean, we're working with people in Kerrville. We've been told pretty much all of their distribution centers are full. There's been trucks going in there, Texans taking care of Texans. So we're going to be working a little bit on the outskirts of like Brady, Monroe, different towns that weren't, say, aren't in the mainstream media. You figure they're in the Kerrville's there because of the Mystic Camp, and our hearts go out to the parents of those children and to the relatives. I think about it and I want to cry. But there was also devastation that is further down the road, like Monroe. That they have lost all their roads, and they're an unincorporated town, so they don't have public works. So they're going to have help clearing and getting their roads cleared and getting supplies into those people who, the house got flooded. They need clothes. They need cleaning supplies. They need everything, because when a flood comes in, that house, even if it comes in, it fills up half the house, you lose everything. Everything you have.
It's all destroyed.
Because it's really hard to see it. I've seen it firsthand in many situations, and I'm about to go see it again because I'll be down there on Monday. So it's so devastating, the amount of loss in life and in everything people own, anything that they've had as they've grown, things that they've had their whole lives, and it's gone.
Hey, folks, you're listening.
Family heirlooms,
Folks,
everything.
You're listening to Common Sense Conservatives. Our guest tonight is Vince Saben, who is a long-distance truck driver involved with the Buck Up Relief Mission. He's talking about relief missions helping people, Americans in need, to respond to disasters. Vince, the things you're talking about kind of beg the question, talking about moving critical supplies into these areas that have been hit by these disasters. Western North Carolina comes to mind, and the horrific situation with already 119 confirmed fatalities in the hill country of Texas, and about another 170 or 90 people reportedly missing still. And as the hours go by, the hope of finding them alive seems pretty slim. But in both situations in West North Carolina, we also had people who were washed away from their homes right on the river there and other creeks and wound up being entombed. This is pretty crazy stuff. And it comes to this question for you, Vince. Do you guys also play a role, or do you have resources to help, when those roads or bridges are washed out? I mean, you talk about taking things to distribution centers. Like you said, Kerrville's got what they need right now. So you're looking at the places that aren't getting attention. But what happens when you go into an area to bring relief supplies and the roads are gone? Do you have drop-off points? Do you resort to aviation, helicopters to get things in? Or how do you do that? Because I'm sure that particularly like in Western North Carolina, roads were gone, bridges were gone. And then you're seeing the same thing here in the Texas Hill Country right now with all the debris.
Well, what we do is we set up a distribution center that we can get a semi-truck into. And from that point, depending on the situation of people, some people are able to come in and get what they need. Other situations, we'll load smaller trucks and move it out and bring it out to them. We also have connections with heavy haulers who do excavating and can come in with their heavy equipment and repair or clear roads. We have a female firefighter who's also a chainsaw operator who's arriving there tomorrow, and she'll probably be putting that chainsaw to work a lot. So we through networking, we're able to get people in and clear roads, and volunteers go in. And the government does play a part. I mean, they're going to come in with some equipment and do what they can. Not so much as happened in North Carolina, but I think with this administration, you're going to see a lot more help to areas that get devastated. but they can't do it all on their own. It's a lot of volunteers. Like I said, neighbors helping neighbors. I spoke with a man yesterday who's renting an excavator in northern Texas, and he's going to bring it down as soon as they say they can come down and start. Right now, they're still in the search and rescue phase, because they really don't want to move a lot of debris. Any debris you move, you have to be real careful, because one of the people that may be missing may be in that pile of debris. You talk about people getting washed away in their homes. North Carolina, I went into Green Mountain, and the locals there were telling me about a husband and wife that were in their house. They found the husband 18 miles downstream, and they never found the wife. She's probably buried under all the sediment and mud and everything. They'll never find. There's people in North Carolina. They will never
that was
find.
My point. That's a truly horrific situation, and I suspect we're going to probably see that in the Texas Hill Country. Some of these people may never be found. Some of these stories are really heart-breaking, Vince. I mean, you probably heard about the two little girls, sisters, 11 and 13 years old. Their father woke up at 3:30 in the morning, stepped off the bed, had 4 inches of water. Grabbed his wife. He went to the door that was already up to his knees. They went out the window. It was up to her neck. They managed to get other people out above higher ground, got a kayak, couldn't get down to his daughters who were staying with the grandparents. They found the daughters 15 miles downstream, and their hands were clasped. And they're both, of course, have passed away. Both these little girls, in the midst of this horror, knowing what was happening to them, 11, 13 years old, sent text messages to both their parents and to their grandfather, who was up in Chicago, saying they loved them. And in fact, to the grandfather in Chicago, sent a picture. Heartbreaking.
Yeah, extremely heartbreaking. It's when water rises that fast and moves that fast, it has a lot of force with it. That crested at over 29 feet. But raised 26 feet in 45 minutes. That's a lot of water.
That's
a lot of water.
That is biblical levels of water flooding.
Correct. Now, North Carolina, the water and mud came down the mountain and peaked at roughly 45 feet and was moving at over 200 miles an hour. So there were people in North Carolina, then when that force hit them, their body just disintegrated. You're not going to find that in Texas. The water wasn't moving that, but you're going to find people a lot farther downstream than you would think, and it's heart-wrenching. I've worked with a few guys that are right there, search and rescue, and there's things that they're seeing that they'll live with the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I can imagine it for the first responders. We heard the Kerrville Police Department talk about one of their officers who had a night shift and was moving out and found himself in one of the spots because the road crosses over the Guadalupe River several times. And so he left a place, and that place behind him wound up the water came over the road. Where he was headed, he couldn't get any further. He saw people on the top of houses, and all he could do was use his loudspeaker on his vehicle to encourage them and hang in there until the water went down well enough to help rescue some of them. Some of these these stories of truly heroic actions taking place. It seems, Vince, that in the worst of times, often the best of people come out.
Yeah, times like this, everybody forgets their political views, what you view of I guess racist. You put it all aside, and you remember that we're all humans, and we all bleed the same, and we need to come together. It's the only way that everything's going to happen. I mean, unity in this country, unfortunately, happens at the worst times. In devastation, in war, in things like 9/11, things like that. That brings people together, and it's sad that that's the only time it brings them together, and the rest of the time we're fighting about politics and disowning our friends. And not being a neighbor. I mean, a lot of places you go right now, do you know your neighbor's name? Do you know who lives in the house next door?
Yeah, the world's
No.
changed quite a bit since we were kids. People don't have that personal
Yep.
connection in many places. Vince, a lot of attention's been focused on the tragedy, how many people have died, and that's certainly something we have to mourn the losses. But I think that if we look at Camp Mystic in particular and realize that 750 girls plus counselors were there, and that at this point 27 are unaccounted for or have been confirmed dead, it's absolutely amazing given how fast that water came that most of those girls and counselors got out, because if you look at the map, much of the camp was in the flood zone where that water went up to 20, 25, 30 feet. It's amazing. I think that maybe at some point people need to say a prayer and thank God that so many of these kids got out.
Yes, 100%. You know, there is loss, but there's a lot of survival stories in it, and God bless them for being able to get out and do and help others as they got out. You know, a lot of sadness, but a lot of heroes. A lot of people that really they're heroes. They saved each other and were with each other and got each other out.
Well, I agree with you, Vincent. I'd have to say that there's also inspirational stories here. I mean, I'm inspired by these two daughters, these two girls, sisters, 11 and 13 years old, who obviously they were old enough to know they were facing certain fate. And they had the wherewithal not to cry or scream or shout or plead. They sent messages of love to their parents and grandparents, then held each other's hands.
Yes. I mean, and you know how scared they were, and they knew what was coming.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know, it's as a combat veteran, I've faced that sort of thing, and one would hope that when our time comes, that we would have the same courage that these kids had.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Well, I don't want to get too emotional here with this story, Vince. I want to get back and focus on what you guys do. So you're a 501c organization, that's correct? A nonprofit organization?
We're an 801.
Oh, 801, sorry, okay.
We're connected with Banners for Freedom Ministries. And they're basically our mother group. And they're out of Texas. And they're up in northern Texas, and so we're in 801. Everything goes to, like I said, everything we get goes to moving trucks or things like that. One thing a lot of people at this point right now are thinking about, okay, what supplies can I send? Can I buy mops and this and that and donate it? Keep in mind that we have to move the trucks, so we have fuel costs that are involved and other costs in getting things from one place to another. So we have a donation site, so that can be done, so we can move the things that we need to move.
So Vince, people can help out with sending funds to help with that sort of thing, logistical cost of doing it, but are also in-kind donations. Is that something that you guys get as well?
Yes. Yep. Like I got 2 phone calls of 6 pallets of antibacterial cleaning wipes for cleaning. That was just called, and that we'll go pick up and move. And another
Folks, Vince is on the road. His connection isn't always solid, so hopefully he'll come back in while he's fading there. It sounds like he's coming back. Sounds like he's switching from tower to tower along the highway. John knows how that works.
Oh, yeah.
Trailer.
That's an interesting feat.
I don't know how many pallets are on. Tools, hand tools.
So,
this happened to you much on the road, John?
Yeah, this has happened to me many times. But you got to hand it to truck drivers, man. I'll tell you what, they pull through. live a hard life. So I think they, what they say, hard times develop good character, and a lot of them come from hard lives. And trucking is not an easy life within itself, especially over the road trucking. And then when they put the time and effort in like this, he's working hard. As you can see, he's on the road. He froze up us on the screen. I suppose I should take him off the screen until he gets a signal back. But yeah, it's just it's fascinating to see how many truck drivers will. And then I know another truck driver who started a similar organization here years back, and in fact I gave him a connection so that maybe they can work together. Yeah, as soon as I see him come back, I'll bring.
Yeah, no worries. No, it's one thing about truck drivers. Definitely, of course, I've had a long association with the industry because of my stepfather and my mother, all the way back to 1970s. Although it's not something I've hung around, but I've been known about it for a long time. But I can say that they're persistent. Truck drivers are persistent, long haul truck drivers.
You have to be, man. I'm telling you what, sometimes it's like an act of survival out there.
Oh, it is, I'm sure. It's between the weather, the mission, you got to get from one place to another and get that delivery on time. And it's not exactly taking cores to Georgia for Smokey the Bandit, but it's something you got to persist about. Folks, you're listening to WSMN 1590 on your AM dial, 95.3 on your FM dial. It's Common Sense Conservatives coming to you every Wednesday night with my co-host John in Nashua, New Hampshire. John Grosvenor, and then, of course, Todd McKinley in East Tennessee. He's not with us tonight. Our guest tonight is Vince Saben, long-haul truck driver who is right now on the road making delivery. He's also involved in this effort called Buck Up Relief Mission, and they help deliver necessary relief supplies in disaster areas. Of course, they were involved in North Carolina, which we were talking about a short while ago. It sounds like he's back. And then now he's also he's back. Now that you're back there, Vince, much better signal it looks like too. You got a better tower there. It must be closer to civilization than you were 5 minutes ago. But now that you're back, your organization is headquartered in Texas. So this hill country thing, although it's not right in your backyard, it kind of hits home. It's close to home, isn't it?
Yeah, we're based out of Texas, the organization. Although we're from all over the country. We have people that are Buck Up Relief in New York. I'm from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. We have people from Connecticut, down in Florida, that make up Buck Up Relief.
Where'd you leave your accent, man? I'm not.
You lost me again.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that doesn't sound like a Northeastern accent.
I don't hear that Massachusetts accent.
I got to find a place to pull over.
Yeah, I think he's not catching us real well there, Chris.
I'm with you, John. He kind of had me fooled. That's it could have been a hill country Texas accent. It wasn't that deep south, and it definitely doesn't sound like a Northeastern accent to me.
No, I'm not getting that.
Well, but to be fair,
I'm not questioning where he's from. I'm just
no, we're not questioning either. But to be fair, I'm from Baltimore, but I sure as heck don't sound like I'm from Maryland. That's for sure, because I got that Midwest accent. But it's because I lived all over the country. But yeah, so hopefully Vince is pulling over, trying to find a spot with a better signal there. But we're talking to Vince Saben from Buck Up Relief Mission. So John, this whole thing, and so I got a little emotional a few minutes ago talking about those little girls. What an sad but truly amazing story. Those girls. Vince is back.
I think I'm back. I'm going to stop up here real quick, where I don't lose you again.
All right. Well, you won't be knocked too much off your schedule because we only got about 20 minutes left in the hour, so that won't slow you down too much.
Okay.
All right. So as you go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You were asking me something, and then I lost you again.
I'm not sure if what we're talking about there, but you kind of got in the direction I was going about how the organization set up. You've got people from all over the country involved in this, so you don't focus on a specific geographic area. You go where the mission is. I mean, if there was a volcano that exploded like Mount St. Helens and you were in need in the Northwest, you probably have guys show up there. Yes.
Yes. We like I said, we're not like like the Red Cross or Samaritan's Purse or anything like that. We don't have a corporate office that we run out of that we have to pay to run. We're a network of Americans, Christian patriotic Americans that just want to help each other when time comes, wherever it may be.
Well, that's the direction I want to go too. I notice, Vince, that it sounds like this is a faith-based organization. You quote Ephesians on your website. You've talked about faith a few times here. I'm guessing that Christian faith has played a role in the organization and the delivery of this effort.
Most definitely. I heard a man once say that I put my right foot out and God tells me where to put my left. And in a lot of what we've done and I've done, I feel that way, that I'm guided by that. I mean, maybe it's just the way I was brought up and my heart goes out to people. But I do believe God has a lot to do with what we do, because there's just been times when, we don't have the money to move a truck, and all of a sudden there was insulin needed in Carolina, and a couple of friends of mine that are also part of Buck Up, they got in their truck and they were bringing supply.
Yeah, we're fading out again.
Well, they got a phone call coming through Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to remove him. See if we. Yeah, he went.
Yeah, I think I know where the story's going. They got a phone call as they were going through Tennessee. Somebody said, "We've got some insulin," and they probably diverted, picked it up, and carried it down there. I'm sure that's what happened. It sounds like that's the case. Yeah, when it gets back, if we get him back up, I want to talk to him about the biggest challenges that they face, because these are nonprofit organizations and not well known. In fact, I'll be honest, I was unfamiliar with Buck Up Relief Mission until we scheduled them as guests. So now, Vince, if you're back, if you can hear me, I wanted to ask, it's organizations sometimes aren't that well known. I'll be honest, I was unfamiliar with Buck Up Relief Mission before we had you scheduled to come on as guest. What's your biggest challenge? Is it getting the funds you need? You were talking about that story about getting insulin, which the timely call came through apparently when someone was in Tennessee headed down there.
Yeah, they were on their way out to North Carolina and got a call, and we were in desperate need of insulin. And they got a phone call, and they stopped to visit the people that they got the call from, and just so happened she had a whole bunch of insulin that she couldn't use. And they were able to take that to North Carolina. That's God in work.
That's his hand in play.
That is his hand at play, 100%. So, yeah, we're really faith-based. But that does not prevent us helping different people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We help everybody.
No, you help everybody. You're not just there to help Christians in need. You're there to help everybody. Vince, when these things unfold, folks like yourself and first responders and those doing response and disaster, they see these things up close and personal. So you appreciate just what's going on here. A lot of times, I'll use the term civilians. I mean, not from a military civilian standpoint, even though I'm military, but I'll use the term civilian. People not associated with the relief effort or not familiar with it. They don't really realize what's going on here from a standpoint that when these events happen, everything is gone. I mean, you're talking about people need contact lenses, people need glasses, people need underclothing, people who need diapers for their babies, formula, insulin, medication, all these things have, in this case, in North Carolina or in the hill country, Texas, have washed away. They're gone. It's not just shelter. It's not just water. It's not just food. Those are immediate needs, but all these other things also have to be addressed. And then the things that seem, less important, but matter, personal hygiene items, toothpaste, toothbrushes, underarm, everything you could possibly think of. Think about something that's in your house. People in need after a disaster need all of that, don't they?
Yes, they do. And we try to get it there. Any clothing, we only accept new clothing. We don't want someone wearing someone's old clothes. But from toothbrushes to personal hygiene, baby diapers, water, all of it. Anything you can think of that's in your house, these people have lost. So we come in and bring it to them the best we can.
Well, Vince, and now you got a good signal. It looks like you pulled over. We've got you there, and we'll try to hold that signal on the network for a little bit. maybe a little divine intervention will help us with the signal at this stage. Well, I wanted to ask you a question, Vince. When we were getting broken up there, what's the biggest challenge you guys faced? Because, I mean, people know about the Red Cross. They know about many large organizations where they know to donate things to. Also, I didn't even mention plasma and blood. That's something that's needed for times like this. But what's the biggest challenge that you guys at Buck Up Relief Mission? Is it that you're not well known, or is it getting something in particular, or just getting funds? What's the biggest challenge you deal with?
The biggest funds issue I would say that we have is getting funds to fuel the trucks, to put the fuel in the trucks to move it. People can donate everything, and I've seen it. They donate thousands of things, but don't keep in mind that, okay, now we've got to take it from where you donated it to where it's needed. And it costs a lot of money to run these trucks. Fuel is not cheap. And if you get a truck out there, you blow one tire, it's going to cost you $300. Yeah. And that's on the low side. Right now, I think an average tire is running $450 to $600. So we've got to maintain the trucks. We've got to make sure that the driver can eat and he's got fuel. And if he breaks down, that we're able to help him to keep him moving. Most of everybody we work with are owner-operators. They don't have a big company that's behind them, like Warner or Swift or Knight, JB Hunt, where they're taking care of the maintenance. If these guys out here, owner-operators, they blow a tire, it's out of their pocket, or any breakdown. So, raising the funds to keep the trucks moving is the biggest thing. We have brokers that I'm connected with that we'll broker out a load at whatever it costs. We figure out the miles, the cost per mile, and most guys will give us a little bit of a break on the cost per mile, depending on how far it is. So, yeah, the biggest thing is our funds to keep everything rolling.
Well, that's what I was wondering. It's because I'm sure. Well, there's probably an average cost you figure it's going to take, because you've got to calculate, as you said, the maintenance in there. It's not just the fuel, because you have breakdowns, you have tires blow, and unlike most of us on four wheels, I think you got at least 18 wheels that you deal with there. So 18 chances for things to go awry, not to mention all the mechanical things that can go wrong. I mean, things break down, trucks wear down. And as you said, a lot of owner operators, some have new trucks they can afford, some are driving much older trucks, require more maintenance. But I mean, I imagine that's got to be a real challenge. Do you guys do something like in the Army? We have contact teams. Have guys that they're maintenance guys that go along with the convoys, and when we're moving in the field from place to place, and if there's a breakdown, they respond. They come up on the radio. They get up there. They got the tools they need. Sometimes they got spare parts and stuff like that. Are you that developed? Is that something you have the luxury of having, or no?
I have a couple contacts that we can do that with, depending on where they are in the country. Most of the time, they've got to roll into a TA or a Love's and get the repairs done there. But we do have contacts with some mechanics that we can call if they're in the area.
TA is Travel America, and Love's are the two biggest truck stops coast to coast that are kind of in existence these days, correct?
Yeah, you can add Pilot and Flying J in there also.
Yeah, there you go. They're still around too. Yeah, but I mean, that's two of the big ones. So these are what we're talking about, truck stops. Because I'm not sure not everybody, particularly your national audience, is familiar with Travel America and with Love's or Pilot or Flying J for that matter. I know Flying J because I'll tell you what. Every time I went across the country, I used to stop at the Flying J outside Indianapolis. Man, gasoline was like 89 cents a gallon at one point there. I was picking up. I love that place.
Back in the early 1990s, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That was a long time ago, guys.
Yeah.
We've come a long way since then.
Getting to be a geezer conversation here.
Yep. So yeah, that would be our biggest thing. And if you can't donate funds, even $5 or $10 is a great help. It all adds up. But if you can't do that, and you have our Buck Up Relief Mission Give Send Go website, I don't know if there's a way you can post that on here.
It's the website's posted below our chat, so anybody watching online can see it.
Okay, share it out. Share it out, share it out, share it out. That is all I can ask. Donate if you can. If you can't donate, you start something up locally. Work with your neighbors to put something together, and then contact us and say, "Hey, we've put together enough to half fill a semi truck." You know, there are things you can do, and then we'll figure out a way to pick it up and get it moved. But you know, that's all I can ask is that help us help them.
Well, Vince, for those who are watching this online, of course, we're on a radio terrestrial station out of Nashua, and that's our main audience. We have an online audience; they can see it on the screen. But for those listening over the radio, you can go to https for secure www.givesendgo.com, and there's a /buck up, and that's what you're looking for. Or you can just go to their website and find that, and that'll show you how to get there. Their website is bannersforfreedom.com. Vince, let me ask you this question: what fuels you? Is it your faith that drove you to do this, or something personal in your life that maybe you just felt the need to help people?
I don't know. I blame my mother.
I wasn't expecting that answer.
I blame my mother on the way she brought me up. It's been odd. It's just a feeling I have that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Everybody has a purpose on this planet, and some people never know what their purpose is. Some people will get the feeling of what their purpose is to do and to do it. My purpose, and I went in the Navy. I backed this country 100%. I love this country and I love the people of this country. And when someone needs help, it's what I do. It's just maybe it's God telling me to do it. Or
well, it sounds like you found a purpose and one that's noble. Has there been a singular experience that's been the most rewarding? Maybe someone you've helped or someone who lost everything that's come back from tragedy. Is there a story you can tell us, a brief story about something that's really just hit your heart?
Hold on. Let me mute this a second.
It sounds like there's a dog there.
I think he has a companion there.
Yes, I do. I found him at a truck stop 3 years ago as a puppy, and he's been with me ever since.
Oh, that's nice.
So, yeah, something that's really touched my heart. Last Christmas, I got a call that they wanted to bring Christmas to the kids in North Carolina. And I had the privilege of going and getting the semi-truck loaded with new bicycles and Christmas presents of all sorts, from clothing to you name it, and delivering it to the kids in Western North Carolina. And these kids were amazing because they've lost everything. And you know, when they came in and their eyes just lit up with everything that we had, but at the same time, they'd go down the line and they'd look at this toy and that toy, and they'd pick one so that their neighbors would still have, their friends could still have something. It's not like they just rushed and grabbed everything and filled it into a bucket and were greedy little kids. And it really touched my heart to see that. The way the children looked out for each other. And it was just an amazing feeling, and I want to do it every year. That really filled my heart to see how these kids, not the adults, but the kids, looked out for each other and made sure, hey, okay, this Joe and...
Oops,
Whoa, he had a good signal.
Yeah, it's like the network cut us off just when the good stuff got going.
Friends could also have it. And when that evening was done, we loaded up what was left and we went to another town and they did the same thing.
Wow. So Vince, it's pretty cool. As a veteran working with a VFW. We can hear you. Yes, you drifted for a moment, but you're back. As a veteran working with the VFW,
you guys
we
lose
get
me again.
We've got you.
I don't think he can hear us.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Let me take him out and bring him back.
Yeah.
There he
Okay.
went.
Okay.
Fixing himself.
Yeah. Let's get him back here.
Technology, guys. We deal with it because it's actually, this is good stuff.
It's great when it works.
It's wonderful when it works. Yeah, we love it.
It's just a network issue, I'm sure.
Nope, I'm not hearing Vince now.
Okay, well, we're coming up on the end. Oh, there he is. There he is. Got him back.
Oh, okay. He was trying to speak, but we weren't picking him up.
Okay.
These things happen too commonly when you got a headset like that. You're trying to do Restream or StreamYard or any of these platforms. Sometimes your headset won't connect with it. It's challenging.
Yeah, this is why for my broadcasting, I long ago switched from the Wi-Fi to my LAN card. And instead of having wireless keyboards and wireless mice and wireless microphone, everything is wired up. That cuts down any chance. It makes it a lot better. There he's Vince is back. Can you hear us, Vince?
Nope. If I could read lips, it'd be great.
Yeah, he can't hear us. We can't hear you. No, we cannot hear you. Okay, so probably his best bet's to hang up and dial back in. But we're short on time here. We got about 8 minutes before we go to the top of the hour. So
can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go. He's back. He's back. Okay.
So like Vince, a Verizon commercial.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
so Vince, what I wanted to say is, after you finished telling that story, we did catch you in the story, which is great. But what I want to say is that what was really cool is that as a veteran working with the VFW, we do a breakfast with Santa every year. And gifts are given out to kids, and it's just truly amazing. We also we gather gifts for kids. The names provided by the local schools who are in need of Christmas gifts from families that can't manage it. And people are really generous, and we get the honor of delivering those things every year, and it's pretty cool. If there was anything that I would definitely want to do, if I only had one option to do during the year, would definitely be what we do at Christmas time for kids. Of course, I'm kind of biased, Vince. My birthday is December 25th, so I'm kind of like the day.
So is my granddaughter's.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's odd because I never met a single person in life who, because you meet somebody like, oh, my birthday is May 12th. Hey, so is mine. I never had that happen, even though my birthday is Christmas Day, until I was in my 40s. And then somebody said, Christmas Day is my birthday too. Obviously, tens of millions of people are born on Christmas Day, but it just never happened. So I guess those of us who are born on Christmas kind of keep it to ourselves most of the time.
Yeah. They're right up there with you up there, but they're over in the Green Mountain State. They're in Vermont.
Oh, okay. Up there with John. Okay, cool beans. Yeah. All right. So, are you going to be in the Hill Country, Texas? Is that where you're headed to get down there?
Yeah. Right now, I'm in New York. Well, I'm in Jersey. I got to go to New York, and then I'm going to circle back down around to South Carolina, and then over to North Carolina by Friday. I'll get loaded on Friday, and I should be in Texas by Monday.
Okay. All right. Hopefully things will clear up a little bit by then. Hopefully a lot of people will have been found by then. But, before to move away from that for just a second, I just want to say, Vince, I think a lot of people take many things for granted, especially this day and age. You go to Amazon, you click on something, you go to Best Buy, you click, and the next day it's at your door. In order for that to happen, we rely overwhelmingly on long distance truckers and truckers of all sorts who move those goods from the ports around the country and get those things to places we need them every day. And it's not just, laptops and cell phones and microphones and jeans and things like that, perfume. It's also food, everything we rely on. And I think a lot of people really, even though we drive down the highway, we see semis all the time. And, but I think a lot of people don't really understand, appreciate just how much effort and what a hard life that is for truckers. You guys put long hours in. You got to deal with bad weather. You got to deal with mechanical issues, lots of challenges out there. It's not an easy life, but obviously there must be something that's appealing to it because you guys do it.
Well, somebody has to.
You like to suffer, don't you, Vince?
Excuse me?
He's
you like
a masochist.
to suffer, don't you?
Believe me, being a truck driver, you sacrifice a lot. We don't get to go home every day and have a place to have a regular meal. We're lucky if we can see our loved ones once a month. I mean, I go out on the road and I get to go back to Cape Cod here in a couple of weeks, but I don't get to see New England that often where I can just relax and have fun and visit my loved ones. I can go out on the road because of the way I do things and the things I do. I've been on the road for 2 or 3 months at a time, and it is tough. It can get hard.
Cell phones, I think, saved it for truck drivers.
That certainly made a difference, I'm sure.
The loneliness, being alone all the time, the solitude, it can really eat at you when you're an over-the-road truck driver. Where at least a cell phone, you can keep in touch with people, call your wife, call your brother, call your family members and friends.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say that.
Well, I got a dog.
Yeah, you got a dog now for 3 years. But I would also say, John, that I suspect that the advent of satellite radio. So you've got something other than coast to coast to listen to every night going across the country.
Yeah, I have my Sirius XM.
Truck drivers love your Sirius XM. I used to just flip to the channels and look for local channels, but you lose them quick.
Yeah, I actually have a MiFi internet connection in the truck, and so I have my Roku TV too. So,
wow, that works out pretty well. Hey, so we're coming up on the end of the hour. So, Vince, I want to say thanks a lot for all that you do and for what you're doing right now. I think a lot of people really appreciate it. Any final things you want to tell us about the organization, or any message of hope, or an appeal for people to help out? Anything you'd like to say? We'll give the floor to you right now. It's your floor, Vince Saben.
I want to thank everybody for listening, and help us out any way you can. It would be greatly appreciated. Like I said, whether it's $5 or $10, or if it's just sharing out the link to others. You're based out of New England up there, and hey, I'm a fellow New Englander, and just because Texas is halfway across the country does not mean they're not our neighbors. We're all neighbors in one way or another. I just really can thank everybody for the support that they're giving. I thank both of you for allowing me to come on the show and talk to me. I'm sorry about the disconnecting along the way, but I really appreciate, getting the word out and helping these people in Texas. And the hard part is to think about is we just started hurricane season. So this is not going to be the first disaster I'm going to have to deal with this year. It's not the first disaster that this country is going to have to deal with. And we've seen hurricanes all the way up the coast, right up into New England, where things have been wiped out. And when we're in need or you're in need, we want to be able to come and help you. And the people that you help now are the people that are going to step up to help us help you. It's a big circle. We all bleed the same. We all have a country. We have family. We have our beliefs. And like I said earlier in the show, this country wasn't built on a government. It was built on neighbors helping neighbors. It was helping each other build each other's bonds, plant each other's gardens. If somebody got sick, you'd go over and you'd harvest his crop for him so that his family could survive the winter. We got to get back to that. We got to get back to knowing your neighbor. Tomorrow morning, go out, and if you don't know who's next door, introduce yourself. Say, hey, you need something? Let me know. You have an elderly person down the street who can't get out and go get milk, help them get it.
Well, Vince Saben, thank you very much. That's going to wrap it up for this hour. Good luck on your trip down there, and we look forward to hearing more from you. God bless, and have a lovely evening.
God bless you. Thank you.
Folks, we'll be back in the next hour after the news. Stick around for more of the Common Sense Conservatives. Our guest was Vince Saben with Buck Up.
Buck Up Relief Mission.
Yeah, thank you. I got it. My throat was choked up there. Kidding you. We'll see you next hour, guys. Thanks.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. In the Texas flood zone, search and rescue teams now in their 6th day, with the death toll rising to 119, 172 people still missing. And we've learned that the emergency plan for Camp Mystic, where dozens of girls died, was approved by state officials a couple of days before the floods. ABC's Matt Gutman along the Guadalupe River.
I've been speaking with EMS officials who are telling me that they are going to scour every single inch of the Guadalupe River all the way down to its terminus at Canyon Lake. That's 125 river miles away. It's a process that could take months.
And more deadly flash flooding in Reduso, New Mexico Tuesday, 3 people dead. And there is a flood watch not just there tonight, but also in the mid-Atlantic from the Carolinas to Pennsylvania, including Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. Lifting a pause, the U.S. has resumed sending some weapons to Ukraine. This after a massive Russian drone attack, the largest of the war. This is ABC News. Republicans in Congress pressed former President Biden's White House doctor for answers about his health.
Appearing for his scheduled closed-door deposition, Dr. Kevin O'Connor declined to answer questions. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer read out the first couple to reporters.
Were you ever told to lie about the president's health? He pleaded the Fifth Amendment.
O'Connor's attorney says in addition to the constitutional protection against self-incrimination, his client also cited doctor-patient confidentiality. Comer says the move only raises more questions about a White House cover-up of Biden's health as president. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
Novak Djokovic has reached the Wimbledon semifinals for a men's record 14th time as he pursues his unprecedented 25th title from all Grand Slam tournaments. He'll take on number 1 Jannik Sinner in the final. Chipmaker NVIDIA has made history, becoming the world's first publicly traded company to reach a market valuation of $4 trillion. Dave Packer, ABC News.
I love a day on the water with friends, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis sometimes holds me back. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy.
Teaching music is my passion, but my active psoriatic arthritis can limit me at times. Now I'm treating my joint symptoms with Skyrizi.
With Skyrizi, most people with plaque psoriasis saw 90% clearer skin at 4 months.
Or if you are an adult with active psoriatic arthritis, Skyrizi helps you move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
There's nothing like clearer skin.
There's nothing like better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument. Memorials of distinction for people who care.
Memorial. Sorry, John. I got to beat you, man. Memorials of Distinction, Gate City Monuments. I love that commercial.
That is an awesome commercial. When I first heard it, I thought, wow, that's going to slow and drags along.
But it grows on you.
Actually, yeah, you're right. It does have a certain effect to it. Not everything has to be like rock and roll, right? I mean, it's just
exactly.
But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just now tuning in, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here, WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 on your FM dial. You can also catch it at wsmn.live. Throw the whole shebang in there, Chris. Trump gave an announcement the other day, had press briefing and stuff like that, had a whole crew there with him, and he was asked about, during the course of this thing, he was asked about the Epstein files. When will you be releasing the Epstein files? And he got kind of irate about it. He was like, "What, are you serious? You asked me about the Epstein files? What, are you not over this?" And he's like, "Oh, we just had this tragedy, and it is a tragedy what happened in Texas, no doubt. We just listened. We spoke about this for an hour now, and took note of it, and I hope people do support Vince Saben and his efforts there." But yeah, I was kind of taken back a little bit because human trafficking is a tragedy within itself. And what happened in Texas was a natural disaster. It couldn't be helped by mankind. Nobody caused it. It happened.
Well, it couldn't be helped, but it could have been mitigated. That's a different story, but yes.
Possibly that. But the point is it was a natural disaster. It was, it's tragic just the same. And we all feel for folks in Texas, ain't no doubt about it. But what happened with Epstein is human cause. These are evil people that did evil things. And so I was kind of taken back by his response. I don't know about you if you watched this interview or not, or this discussion, but
I read his comments.
I was taken back by it because the way he reacted to it, passed it to Pam Bondi, and it was almost like they were acting defensively. Well, I think they're taking a lot of heat over it. I don't know.
Well, they are. They're definitely taking a lot of heat over it. You've got Jack Probisak. You've got a number of people on the right side of the aisle who are upset about this. Listen, it's people have different reactions, and so my reaction to this is that this is my take, because my audience is asking me, "What about the Epstein files? What about the client list?" And I'm like, my question is, why are you people so obsessed with the pedo? Well, what are you possibly going to know about this? Why does it matter? And this is my view. I'm just trying to put it out there. To me, I find it repulsive. It's something that I really don't need to know about it because he's dead. They have put Ghislaine Maxwell in prison for her actions. Hopefully the estate, there'll be money to compensate the victims who've come forward in civil cases. But beyond that, I mean, there's nothing that can be gained from this. We're not going to learn any new techniques to prevent recruiting and human trafficking and things like that. We're not. And why the public is so obsessed with it, I do not understand. That's my, hang on, let me finish. That's my take on it. Now, but the reason that I probably approach it that way, John, is, of course, I'm a federal law enforcement official, an investigator, a counterintelligence agent, an intelligence analyst, and, of course, I'm sworn to secrecy and many, many, many things. And there are things that the public just simply doesn't have a need to know. And I think this is one of them. This obsession with a client list that doesn't exist. And now they're claiming that Pam Bondi said it exists, but she was obtuse in her response. And I didn't infer that there was a client list. I just inferred she had the file on her desk and she was getting to it. So I understand why people are upset, because it was almost like the Trump administration promised to deliver something, but I never expected to get anything delivered. And maybe that's why I'm just kind of nonplussed by the whole thing.
All right. Yeah. So she did say that. She said that there was no client list. And she said that the things that she did have for evidence out, she did find on her desk, because she made acknowledgement. She says, I told everybody I had a file on my desk and I had to go through the file. When I went through the file, what I discovered was a lot of child pornography. I can't share child pornography out to the public. So no, you're not going to see that. And no, I'm sure nobody wants to. I mean, I should hope that 99.9 to the infinity of us percent do not want to see that nonsense. My issue, Chris, and I think a lot of people's issue, what the matter is, they want the client list because they want accountability. They want those who were involved and responsible and took part in this action to be held accountable for their actions. They want them prosecuted. They want Hollywood types to be taken down because they were involved in the human trafficking. We hear stories about it from people from Hollywood all the time about their involvements in human trafficking. We want it to stop, and we think that maybe if the list came out, if there was a list and it came out, that these people should be investigated, should be charged and brought to justice.
But we don't need a list to investigate people. We know that Bill Clinton was there. We have the travel records from private jets. So, but the thing is, nothing's going to happen. Whitewater, Vince Foster selling technology to the Chinese communists, which is undermine our national defense to raise money for their campaign. These are all things that Clintons were involved in, and nothing's ever happened to them. Not to mention perjury in Congress.
And that was what I was going to follow up with is, why is there not an investigation? Why are they not investigating these people? I mean, you just clearly said it. Nobody's going to be charged. Nobody's going to be investigated. And it's really eating at the hearts of people because they should be. We need we know who was there, and we know not everybody was there. We don't assume that they're guilty of any wrongdoing because it was a pleasure island. It wasn't necessarily for that specific purpose as far as human trafficking goes. So, well and fine, but we knew they were there and they must have seen things. They must have known things, and we could work our way through it.
I got you, and I appreciate where you're coming from. It's odd to see some people come in my chat and make comments on other programs I've appeared on saying that I'm sensitive to the issue, or that that I don't want to talk about it, or that somehow that I endorse that nonsense. I mean, that's ludicrous. Again, I give my perspective why it's not something I'm focused on. At the same time, good news came out of the Justice Department, something I've been screaming about since this administration came back in power on the 20th of January, and that specifically is the FBI has opened an investigation into James Comey and to Brennan, the communist who was the former director of CIA, for their defrauding the American people, their perjury in Congress, their testimony, the lying, and cooking up the fake Russia hoax from 2016. So it's about time to see this. Now we need to go forward, and all these scumbags in the Biden regime who committed crimes. See, these are crimes that affect all of us. Yeah. All of us are harmed by children being abused. That's true. But all of us are directly harmed by our freedom of speech being abrogated by a corrupt government that uses third parties in the tech sector to silence us in violation of the First Amendment. The tech companies can silence you because that's an agreement between you and a tech company. It's a private contract. But the government cannot silence your speech. That is a violation of the First Amendment, a natural right, and they did it. The Biden regime did it. They told Facebook, they told YouTube, they told Instagram, they told Twitter, shut these accounts down. Don't let these people, because they didn't like what people were saying, not because they said something criminal. That affected all of us. That harmed this nation. And a scam was carried out that affected hundreds of millions of people. So my interest is much more in where we go against those people and against the likes of Comey, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr, all of these people who violated their oaths to the Constitution and harmed America and led us down a path that put us in such a bad situation. Mm-hmm. That's my focus. And what happened with Epstein, it's not like Britain where the people from South Asia, Pakistanis and others were sexually grooming young English girls and pimping them out and beating them and putting them in drugs. And that went on for years because the police looked the other way. This is over. Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are done. He's dead. She's in prison. So trafficking still continues. Let's focus on people being trafficked right now, the people in sexual slave right now. So that's kind of where I come at it from. And some people disagree, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But I'm all about changing what we can and punishing those we can. We can't punish Epstein. And Ghislaine Maxwell's already been punished. So, I mean, what do we hope to achieve there? By revealing the details of the case, I appreciate where people come from. I think the argument you're going to make come back to me is that, well, you just said punish people. There's a lot of people need to be punished. I agree, but I don't think the public needs to know that until charges are brought.
Absolutely. It doesn't concern the public until, I mean, they can't just divulge an investigation and give out all the information. They wouldn't have an investigation. It would be crippled. Mm-hmm. No, you got good points. And I think your concerns about people being silenced, especially by the United States government under the Biden administration, are equal in proportions. I mean, if we're being silent, we can't talk about this. If we can't talk about this, it no longer gains traction. You know what I mean? Because part of what we're doing here, doing a radio show or even social media, people having a discourse on social media is part of what goes on. And believe it or not, a lot of members of Congress and other federal officials will pay attention to what people are saying on social media.
Well, indeed. In fact, but we see now so many different things we were censored for on YouTube, on Twitter, have been proven to be true as we go forward. Now it's all coming out. And the left is like, oh, so what? Not so what. You silence debate about something and you change the course of history. People are dead because they silence speech. People are dead because of what happened. They sent our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles they sent the people infected with COVID into their nursing homes and killed them by the tens of thousands in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And nobody's been held to account for that. That's what I want to see held to account. Where's that investigation at? Let's get the Department of Justice on that. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, we can't say too much as far as medical stuff because we'll be censored in YouTube. However, a lot of the stuff that we have said in the past and been silenced for has come to fruition, come to be true today.
True. It's been proven true, and we knew it was true at the time because we reported on it objectively, not hysterically, and they shut us down because it was a threat. That's why they shut us down, because we were a threat to their narrative. And these people are horrible. They're shameful people. They all need to be brought to justice. I have very little confidence that they will be brought to justice. Bill Clinton will never face justice for his crimes against his country. Barack Obama will never face justice for helping nuclear arm Iran and the crimes against his country and the million people dead in the Middle East because of his naive foreign policy. Mm-hmm. Instead, he's a hero that makes $45 million a year off of Facebook for their racist production of movies. It's sickening and twisted.
I think what we're at on a lot of this stuff is in the 1880s when they were doing the expansion of the West, building the railroads, they put out a lot of grant money. The U.S. government put out a lot of grant money for construction of railroads. And this became a free-for-all. And a lot of people were pocketing a lot of money off the federal government. And they started investigating this. And the more they investigated this, the more they were uncovering. The more they uncovered, the bigger it became. It becomes so big that they realized, look, we just don't have the funds. We don't have the resources. We don't have time to grab all these people and prosecute. They more or less just swept it under the carpet because it was just overwhelming. And I think that's where we're at now. With the Epstein case, with many other cases when it comes to the federal government and criminal activity within the federal government, the corruption is it gets swept under the carpet because it's just too difficult for them to manage. And it's sad because we need justice for this, because corruption continues if you don't investigate. Corruption continues if you don't prosecute.
Well, I think the answer here, the problem we're running into now is because the Biden regime gave them a chance to run the clock out. So we can't prosecute Hillary for her crimes. The statute of limitations has expired. We are running out of time to prosecute some of these other people for what they did in 2016. Many of these crimes are no longer prosecutable. But I think that it's perfectly okay to bring a case against some of these people for treason, whether you win the case or not. Put the fear of God in them for their actions and for future transgressors that you will be prosecuting. It's really sad what's happened here. But this isn't even the biggest cover up of the week. The biggest cover up of the week is one we've known about for a long time. At the top of the hour, they talk about the chairman James Comer. Said at a statement of Dr. O'Connor pleading the fifth. According to Comer, O'Connor, Biden's longtime personal physician, was asked two key questions today. Were you ever told to lie about the president's health? Did you ever believe President Biden was unfit to execute his duties? Now, the first one, I can understand protecting himself. The second one, wow, did you ever think he was unfit? Well, you had a responsibility, moral obligation, a legal obligation to tell the public, or at least tell the administration. In both instances, Dr. O'Connor took the fifth. He invoked his Fifth Amendment right to protect him against self-incrimination. That doesn't mean he's guilty, but I don't see what else it could possibly be in this circumstance. And Comer said that this is unprecedented, and I think that this adds more fuel to the fire that there was a cover-up. It's clear there was a conspiracy to cover up President Biden's cognitive decline after Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Biden's physician and family business associate, refused, by the way, business associate, that tells you more there, refused to answer any questions and chose to hide behind the Fifth Amendment. The American people demand transparency, but Dr. O'Connor would rather conceal the truth. Dr. O'Connor took the Fifth Amendment when asked if he was told to lie about President Biden's health and whether he was fit to be president of the United States. Congress must assess legislative solutions to prevent such a cover-up from happening again. We will continue to interview more Biden White House aides to get the answers Americans deserve. But they're not going to get the answers. This is the biggest cover-up, and we need to go after the media. The media has a moral obligation to report news. And if they're doing op-ed, that's another story. But when they do propaganda, they need to be held to a standard. They need to be held to a accountability. And the media ignored this story. They covered the story up. The cognitive decline. I mean, look, we've got the videos of Joe Biden falling up the stairs repeatedly, getting on Air Force One. The guy completely lost. I mean, there's a whole meme of 3 minutes of him, halfway through his term where he just got lost in the conversation. No idea where he's at. Never mind. The guy is mentally unstable and degraded. Frankly, I say he's been that way since he got in Congress, but it's much more obvious the past 5 years. And the fact that this was covered up is, I think, at the moment, the biggest scandal in America.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, that and Barack Obama's birth certificate may not have been actually born in the United States, but
well, he was born in U.S. territory. Hawaii was territory, so anyway.
Well, yeah, I was going somewhere else with that, but we do have a co-host calling in. Let me grab Todd real quick.
Oh my goodness! Did you get him out of the club?
Yeah.
Has he got a Bacardi and Coke in his hand? What's going on here?
Hey, what's up? You got me, John?
Yeah, you're on.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I just want to call in real quick.
So what's going on, man? What can be more important than the common sense conservatives?
Well, I can tell you what's more important is some people gambling in the American Legion. I had to come shut a post down here in Eastridge, Tennessee.
Ooh.
I hate to put their business out there, but hey, I had to work today, so that what kept me away from the show today. But I see you guys had a guest, and hopefully that went well.
It did, actually. Chris did a excellent job interviewing him. He really picked it up and had a great discussion with him. He was in and out a little bit because of his signal, but we got a pretty good conversation out of him, and hopefully a lot of people got something out of it.
Good. Yeah, I just wanted to call in real quick and just touch base with you and apologize for not being on the show tonight.
Oh, cool. Well, we're glad to hear from you. It's nice that you made your presence known anyway. If you can't be here, what are you? Well, back to the house? You driving home now?
No. I just got to a hotel. I'm about to check in right now, so that's why I just want to call real quick when I had a moment.
I got you.
All right, but I appreciate it. Hey, guys, have a great rest of the show.
All right, Todd.
Too.
Thanks a lot for calling in.
Talk to you soon. Bye now.
All right. All right. Well, there you go, John. That's, another example of people volunteering their time. Of course, Todd volunteers his time to help with the American Legion. I do the same with the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and eats up a lot of our personal time. And it actually wears on you quite a bit too, because you deal with a lot of issues in our case for veterans, helping them overcome issues and get resources for them. It's very time consuming. And now with the VA looking at firing 80,000 employees, it might just become a bit more challenging for us going forward.
Is Trump firing 80,000 employees? Is that a Trump thing, part of his executive order, or is this something else?
Trump directed that all these agencies cut their headcount, and the VA came back with a figure of 80,000 employees a few months ago. So now that the Supreme Court has said it's in its authority to do it, which we knew all along, they're probably going to start laying off people from the VA.
I didn't expect that, because Trump has always supported the VA. He's always supported veterans, and I didn't think he would do any cuts there. And he still may not. Maybe he didn't mean it for them directly. We'll find out.
I mean, but okay. First off, the media loves to run with that story. They tell the story 80,000 to scare people. My response to that is, first off, who are we talking about? Are we talking about clinicians, doctors, lab technicians, or are we talking administrative people? Are we talking about people in DC, all over the country? Probably all over the country, that many people. But does it necessarily mean that benefits or resources to veterans go away? Because remember, it's not just hospitals, the Veterans Administration. They handle home loans. That's something they also do. They also handle education benefits for veterans. They do it across the gamut. So it's every part of the services for veterans that they deliver are probably going to take some sort of hit. But maybe there's some headcount in there that's unnecessary that accounts for part of that 80,000. And the other part of this too is that I'm going to ask is that if it's medical, the VA choice, I think that's what they call it. I'm eligible for VA care and I'm enrolled, but I don't use it at the moment. But the VA choice is where you can't get to a VA hospital, you can go to a civilian hospital. Well, I mean, if the VA hospitals are seeing less traffic as a consequence of declining number of veterans, which we have right now, and also as a consequence of veterans taking up that choice option and going to a doctor in their town that the government pays for instead of going to the VA hospital 50 miles away, then maybe we don't have as great a need for as many people. I don't know the answer. I'm just saying that to me, there's a lot of open questions before I start freaking out about 80,000 people being let loose from the VA.
Yeah, I'm sure if he's doing it, it's manageable. It's got to be some like overkill on employees or something. I don't know. As long as our veterans are taken care of, that's what matters as far as that regard goes. I just took me by surprise to hear it.
No, it's a big number, but it's not just that. I mean, all these departments are looking at cutting headcount. There's only a couple places exempted. The military is exempted. The White House staff is exempted, and the air traffic control, things like that. But there's a lot of reductions coming. In fact, they try to blame Trump for the loss of life in the hill country of Texas. They fraudulently claim, they're still running around claiming that Trump cut all these personnel. The cuts that are coming to NOAA and to the National Weather Service haven't taken place. They're projected and planned for next fiscal year. So blaming him for something that hasn't happened is just ludicrous. But I mean, that's what the Democrats do. They try to create a fictitious narrative. But the bottom line is this, folks, you can sit there and moan about the reduction in jobs. And for the people losing jobs, that sucks for them. But there's 13 million vacant jobs in America. There's a job out there for people who are losing their jobs. And the other thing is that we can continue to hire people and pay people with money we don't have and go bankrupt. And then we all go hungry and our currency becomes worthless in, X number of years, or we can reform the system and continue this country's history as we approach our 250th year.
First things first, it's not the government's job to employ people. The government employs people to fill positions that are absolutely needed.
Correct.
And that's what we're getting to here. One thing I do have, we spoke about the big, beautiful bill last week some, and we really didn't get a chance to get into it much as far as reading the big, beautiful bill. And I didn't dive into it deep. I kind of been through it a little bit and listened to some other people, professionals' takes on it and stuff. And it's really not a bad bill for the most part, but we're talking about these cuts and we're talking about, maybe it deprives services, maybe it doesn't. But one of the things I did find in the bill that I was wondering about, with all this excessive spending is there's money set aside for space travel. And we're talking about to build on the moon and try to make it to Mars. And I saw stuff like that. And like I said, I didn't go deep into it, but I'm going, is this really the time to be appropriating funds for that?
Well, it's a fair question. But we fund an awful lot of stuff. The Army is trying to save $2 million by getting rid of its horse-drawn units at Fort Hood and at the artillery school in Fort Sill. They're going to only have one unit left in the Army that has horses. Some would argue, why do we need horses at all? But they do ceremonial events, which are important to morale, as spree, and also for the image of the Army and for recruiting. Space needs to be funded. We haven't been back to the moon in 5 decades. That's insane. We should have on the moon. We should have settlements now. We should be doing research on the moon. We should be using the moon as a launch pad to get further into the
that was the
solar
idea.
system. Yeah, but we haven't because we've abandoned it. We didn't put the money there. We put money to the shuttle program, which had merit, but really wasn't what needed to be done. So anyway, I don't have a problem with funding that. The question is not that. See, here's the thing, and John, when people want to say, are we funding the right things? My answer to this is that, are we funding the right things? 82% of the budget is non-discretionary. It's mandated by existing law. Entitlements, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. So the president only gets to decide 18% of the budget. And if he spends a few million or a few $1 billion on space exploration, I don't have an issue because that's not what's putting us in the crapper.
That was congressional. Now that came out of the budget and that came congressionally, but
okay, but wherever it comes from, whether it's the president ultimately signs the bill into law, so it's his budget, whether Congress adjusts or not. But if 18% of the budget is spent on things, yet we're not touching the entitlements program, which is what's putting us in debt and going to push us to the insolvency, then that's where the savings are. It's like Doge came along. We're going to save $2 trillion in the budget. I'm like, you're smoking crack cocaine, buddy. That's impossible. How can you save $2 trillion? The discretionary budget is only like $2.6, $2.8 trillion. That's all that you have any discretion over. So if you're going to cut $2 trillion, then you'll have no Coast Guard, no Federal Aviation Administration, no Customs Immigration, no National Weather Service, no military. There'll be no money. There'll only be a few $100 billion. The defense budget alone is $900+ billion, and there would be only about $600 billion left to fund the entire federal government. I mean, this is just pie in the sky nonsense. So when Elon Musk and Doge came along and said they're going to cut $2 trillion, I'm like, okay, that sounds nice. Hopefully they'll cut a few $100 billion. Well, they did find a few $100 billion, but no one wants to touch the sacred cows of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid in a sniffing way. And don't fall for the hype that Trump in his budget cut Medicaid. He didn't. He just said people are capable of working. You have to work. You don't get the benefits. So the media runs around. They've cut all these 10 million people. No, get off your backside. Go work because you're able. Go volunteer.
And to put clarity on that, nobody thinks a guy in the wheelchair is going to get up and go start swinging a hammer. I mean, it's
no, we're not talking about that.
Obviously, these are able-bodied people they're talking about. They're
Correct.
just erroneously collecting Medicaid or Social Security disability, and they're capable of working in some regard or another. I can't understand. I don't know about you, Chris, but I often think, what if I became handicapped? What if I became wheelchair bound? What would I do? Can I not train for software development? Can I train for something that involves sitting where I can operate a computer?
Well, exactly. And so my argument to all that is that what's his name there in the wheelchair? The scientist.
Hawking?
Stephen Hawking. Yeah, Stephen Hawking couldn't communicate. He one of the most brilliant minds on the planet. He had to use tiny little movements to electronically move a keyboard to speak for him. And he contributed to society. He wrote books. He dictated books on science and exploration and came up with theories that are amazing. If Stephen Hawking can do that when he basically can't move, then virtually anybody can contribute and work in some way, no matter what their handicap is.
Yeah, I imagine there's some things that may be not so feasible for some people. I mean,
no, there are absolutely.
But your point's valid. I mean, people can retrain, given certain circumstances. I've heard guys that have a bad back and they can't do manual labor. That's fine, but what can you do? And it's a matter of training. So you're going to need the support. And I remember, I know a lot of people don't like to give Bill Clinton a whole lot of credit, but in the 90s, he did revert from, and I think this is working across the aisle. He did revert from giving handouts. He said, we don't need handouts. What we need are hands up. We need a hands up approach. We need to make it so people can be up. And what he did is he stopped doing welfare so much. He retracted on that. And he actually told people, he says, listen, the babies you got and the welfare you're getting, that's fine now. We're not taking that away from you. Have a baby now. We're not giving it to you. He says, but if you want an education, we're here to support you. And that's what they did back then. And that program really worked. And the idea of it was, now you'll be a contributing member of society. There's a benefit for it. There's a return on this investment.
Well, I mean, this is the thing about the Democratic Party. I mean, you're talking about a Democrat who is really a centrist in many respects, But these Democrats don't exist anymore. I mean, if we go back and we look at the top tax rate in the United States in the 1950s was like 90% of income for wealthy. 90% went to the federal government for income tax under the progressive tax system. Do you know who cut the corporate or the personal tax rate to record lows at the time? You want to guess which president that was?
That cut the personal tax rate?
Cut the personal income tax rate from 90% for the top bracket. He lowered it to much lower, I think 40%, something like that. I don't remember the exact amount, but he lowered it. Who do you think that was? Reagan? It wasn't Reagan.
I was going to say Reagan originally. I think this before Reagan. I don't think
it's
it was
before Reagan. John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Oh, Kennedy.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who believed in national defense, believed in the rule of law, believed in lower taxes. A Democrat, lower taxes. That's where the Democrats were. That's not who they are now.
He really was. I mean, his party's the party that brought in personal income tax in the first place in 1913.
Well, he's the guy that lowered it from 90%. He got it changed, lowered. So my point here is that the Democrats are unreliable because they're not those people anymore. That's who they were. That's not who they are. And that's part of the root of the problem in this country. They're just a bunch of wackadoodle lunatics that will support anything that just hates America and hates white men, hates Christians, and hates heterosexuals. That's who they are.
That's the issue within itself. I mean, they exhibit racism in a whole different way. Redistribution of wealth is take away from the white guy and give to minorities. This redistribution of wealth is to take away from large corporations or businesses or rich folks to make sure that poor folks have it. And their predominant focus is minorities. They always claim minorities in these regards. And so instead of helping people get up and going again back to what Bill Clinton was talking about in the 90s, instead of helping people better themselves, they would rather just take it away from people that have bettered themselves and give it to people that won't.
Well, this is failed socialist and communist ideology, thinking that the pie is limited. But again, I go back to this whole point I made before. If the pie is limited, in other words, there's only so much you can get from it, then why isn't the world starving to death? We were told by the World Watch Institute and Lester Brown that we would all be starving by 1990 because the population was expanding. We would hit 8-9 billion. We wouldn't be able to feed those people. But a little thing called the Green Revolution happened in the 1960s. Increased crop yields, more fertilization, gene splicing, all this sort of stuff. Now, as you have GMO modified, we have far more food produced and wasted than we've ever had. And obesity is a global problem, not simply an American problem. Morbid obesity is a global problem as well, because we have too much food. What we have is a maldistribution of food. Some people who need it don't get it when they need it because it's not distributed right places, either for criminal activity or for warfare, conflict, or because people just don't have the resources. But the bottom line is that the planet can more than feed itself many times over. Also, when it comes to, there's only so much this and so much of that, as if wealth is derived entirely from the extraction of iron ore or magnesium or manganese. But the bottom line here is that, in fact, we created an entire ecosphere, an entire economy out of thin air on the internet. Yes, it takes electricity to run it, but it takes electricity to run anything. Yes, it takes computers, but use computers for everything, not just for the internet. And we have businesses, retail businesses, wholesalers, shipping. We have the internet, which allows people to determine whether it's the right day to bring your goats to market in the Sahel in Africa. And well, no, don't bring it today because 8 other people brought them in and the price is going to drop because there's too many goats on sale. So you come next week. And we have all of this, and millions and millions and millions and millions of jobs and trillions of dollars of wealth have been generated almost out of thin air. If the pie only had 4 slices, where did the slice of the internet come from? It didn't. The point here is that leftists always get it wrong. A rising tide does, in fact, lift all ships. It's not like when the tide goes up, one ship stays low, because if it did, it'd have a hole and it'd be sinking, kind of like the communists.
Yeah, that's it right there. They shoot themselves in the foot and went right to the bottom of the boat.
Yeah, when they're not busy shooting us in the back of the head.
Yeah, I'll try him.
Yep, definitely trying. So, like the world is not as complicated as a lot of people make it out to be. But they really try to pretend that the world is something it's not. And we should call them out on that each and every day. I think that's our role.
Yeah. If they're, especially when they're lying, man. What they say, I can tell they're lying, their lips are moving.
Yeah, sounds like a politician.
Yeah.
Sounds like AOC.
AOC. Oh, the face of the Democrat Party, she'll be running for president here in 2028 or so. And
that's fascinating to me, John, because that'll mean that I'm just, so excited to date an aspiring presidential candidate. We all want to date her. She's so hot. That's what we hear. That's what she said. She said she's so hot that all the Republicans want to date her.
Yeah, she was trying to claim that was the infatuation.
Yeah, well, it's I guess that must be the case. I mean, AOC.
I think that might be an expression of how self-absorbed she is, because public been paying a lot of attention to people like Omar and Presley and a lot of these other morons too. I mean, we talk about Schumer on a regular basis and put him down too, but doesn't mean we want to date him.
Yeah, and we're not called misogynist when we attack Chucky Schumer or Mitch McConnell. We're called honest. But if you say something against Jasmine Crockett, oh, you're a misogynist, you're picking on women. No, we're just picking on self-proclaimed idiots. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's some real winners in that party over there. Also, the thing about the Democratic Party, which is fascinating, which nobody has the courage to say, is that the problem with the Democratic Party is it's not representative of America. What do you mean, Chris? Well, look at the faces. Look at the ethnic origin of the Democratic Party. The United States is not 40% black or 30% black, but the Democratic Party is 25, 30% black. The United States is 12% black. Talk about overrepresentation of one group in particular, but of many groups. The United States is not 20% gay, but it seems like 20% of the Democrats in Congress are gay. That's a wildly overrepresented group. And nothing against being gay or being black. There's nothing for or against that. That's who people are. I don't criticize that. What I'm saying is that we constantly hear how things aren't representative of society. But the NFL is 65% black. The NBA, 78% black. That's not representative of society. So I'm just making a notation here that almost nobody calls out the Democrats for not reflecting what society looks like. Just saying.
Yeah, I see your point. Per capita, yeah, it'd be an imbalance that way, I guess, if you were going to look at it that way.
Well, I mean, that's how they're always looking at it. If I were president, I picked a cabinet that's full of white men, they call me a racist because I have no people of color.
Yeah.
Or misogynist because I have no women. And I'd look at them and say, no, I picked the best candidates for the job. They just happen to all be men. Next question.
Right. So,
but I mean,
that's their action to try to take and counterbalance something that they declare to be true that isn't true here again.
Yeah, but honestly, if I were president, I'd probably be along the lines of Trump, because my administration would be full of all kinds of talented people. And you got people drooling over press conferences over Carolyn Levitt and Pam Bondi. I mean, they're the best people. I'd hire them.
Carolyn Levitt, man, she is sharp. I mean, you got to realize.
She is.
As young as she is, she's got it together.
She's a spitfire, man. She's got an answer for all of it, and she handles them. Compare this to how they were abusive to Sean Spicer when he became the press secretary. Remember that? How chaotic that was? They're so disrespectful of that guy, and he was short-lived in that role.
Oh, Sean Spicer, yeah, he does that. He does the Brave Books ad.
I have no idea what he's doing now, but he was the press secretary.
I put that up on the screen there during the break. Brave Books, and yeah, he was doing an ad for him at one time. They do Christian books for children.
Okay, no, but remember, he was the press secretary when Trump took over, and the press was just annoying and rabid. Remember that?
I don't actually. I don't recall.
Oh no, he was the press secretary, and these press conferences were annoying, and then he left after a few months. Yeah, it's just it was terrible. So Tony Snow was a great press secretary, I think, of the Bush administration. Sadly, he died from cancer, and former Fox host. And then we also had Dana Perino. She was okay. She was with Bush. And then who's the other one? Kayleigh McEnany. She's a little tiny thing. She was
with Trump.
Yeah, she was decent. She was, but I'm saying that Carolyn Levitt, I think, hands down, is the best practice secretary I've ever seen.
With her in the first Trump administration.
Wow, was she 12?
No, she was she's probably about 20. I mean, what's she now? I mean, 20.
26, 28, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
I think
she
she's 27.
23 back then. I don't know.
Well, it must have been 23, 22, right out of college sort of thing. But yeah, but I would say that Carolyn Levitt is the most polished and the best informed. I mean, compare her to Karine Jean-Pierre, America's favorite black lesbian, by the way, in case you didn't know that. I only know that because she told me that.
With a head full of yarn?
Yeah, because she told me that. Karine Jean-Pierre. By the way, where does she disappear to? Is she on CNN yet?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm not certain she got any offers after she left office or left the
Well, she made a lot of people in that regime angry, but she really carried the water for them. Really, really carried the water for them. I don't think they appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway,
are you Cologne Wyatt now?
No, someone's just
I know he missed.
So some of our viewers, it's not their first language, so that they get typos too. So
it could have been autocorrect.
Wow.
Yeah, you're right, Mark. He's pretty relentless. He gets on it.
Yep. Sorry, I got distracted here. Something just came in I had to deal with very quickly here. But so let's talk about the elephant in the room, not in our room, but in the room of many national headquarters and national capitals around the world right now. That is Donald Trump's reciprocal tariff letters, which started going out Monday. And I'll have to be honest with you, John. I did not expect to see South Africa on there. Not that I didn't expect to see tariffs, but I figured South Africa didn't rise to a high enough level that it would garner Trump's attention until Wednesday. But in fact, on day one, when Japan and South Korea got their tariff letters, South Africa also got a letter. But I think it had a lot to do with the fact that on Sunday, the BRICS nations issued a statement in which they insulted President Trump and the United States, not by name, but by implication. And Trump responded and said, any country that supports BRICS policies will get an additional 10% tariff,
Yes.
no exceptions. So the next day, I have a feeling that they had the letters and they're like, wait, sir, do you want to put this one on top now with the first batch? And it was South Africa. Yeah, he probably said, here's your sign.
And I was like, oh yeah, there you go. Bill Lindell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, did you read any of these letters? I mean, it's just let me pull one of them up here. It's I'll get it, the one for South Africa, and I'll read it to you, and so people get a feel for what was actually said here by the president. I mean, it's pretty. It's actually. I mean, if you're not receiving the tariffs, if you're not on the receiving end, it's actually pretty entertaining. So I'll read the one that went to South Africa. My computer cooperates here. It's there we go. It took a little while to come up there. It's slow. So this letter is dated July 7th, 2025, the first day the letters went out, effective 1 August, the tariffs. His Excellency, Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa. Dear Mr. President, it is a great honor for me to send you this letter in that it demonstrates the strength and commitment of our trading relationship and the fact that the United States of America has agreed to continue working with South Africa despite having a significant trade deficit with your great country. Nevertheless, we've decided to move forward with you, but only with more balanced and fair trade. Therefore, we invite you to participate in the extraordinary economy of the United States, the number one market in the world by far. We've had years to discuss our trading relationship with South Africa and have concluded that we must move away from these long-term and very persistent trade deficits engendered by South Africa's tariff and non-tariff policies and trade barriers. Ouch. Our relationship has been, unfortunately, far from reciprocal. Starting on August 1st, we will charge South Africa a tariff of only 30% on any and all South African products sent into the United States, separate from all sectoral tariffs. Goods transshipped to evade higher tariff will be subject to that higher tariff. Please understand that the 30% number is far less than what is needed to eliminate the trade deficit disparity we have with your country. As you're aware, there will be no tariff if South Africa or companies within your country decide to build or manufacture a product within the United States. And in fact, we will do everything possible to get approvals quickly, professionally, and routinely. In other words, in a matter of weeks. If for any reason you decide to raise your tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise them by will be added to the 30% that we charge. Please understand that these tariffs are necessary to correct the many years of South Africa's tariff and non-tariff policies and trade barriers, causing these unsustainable trade deficits against the United States. This deficit is a major threat to our economy and indeed our national security. We look forward to working with you as your trading partner for many years to come. If you wish to open your heretofore closed trading markets to the United States and eliminate your tariff and non-tariff policies and trade barriers, we will perhaps consider an adjustment to this letter. These tariffs may be modified upward or downward depending on our relationship with your country. You will never be disappointed with the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. With best wishes, I am sincerely Donald John Trump, President of the United States of America. Oh my goodness.
Well-written letter.
Oh my goodness. It's entertaining and bloody at the same time. I mean, that's left a sucking chest wound in the countries that have gotten those letters. And they've gone out to all sorts of countries, from Kazakhstan to South Africa to Japan to South Korea. Wow. And they came out like crazy. So interesting stuff. Crazy times. Trump gave a delay. He issued the letters, basically a final threat to these countries who had a 90-day period to negotiate, and they failed. And he made it for August 1st. And so the leftist media, like the BBC, Trump blinked. Trump didn't blink. Scott Bessent approached him and said, sir, I need more time. We're on the verge of closing several deals. And if we put the tariffs in now, it's going to scupper them. Can you give us till August 1st? And Trump said, yep, sure. So he didn't blink. He just gave them a little more time for our negotiators to close a few more deals, which are supposed to be announced here in the next few days. Some of them.
Sometimes the media doesn't realize when they make these insinuations, it blows up in their face.
Well, that's because most of them aren't real journalists. They're just lazy hacks.
They're just desperate to get Trump any way they can, and they think they've got him. So, what's this? Somebody says, Colonel John doesn't know you were resurrected back from the dead recently. What were you? Am I doing a show with Gumby or?
No. So, I'm not claiming I'm famous or well known or a celebrity. That's certainly not the case. But I can tell you that there is a habit of people on the internet who have malicious intent to make memes about famous people or sort of famous people that they've died in a traffic accident or something like that to try to hoodwink people into donating money and things like that. I've become well known enough that there's a meme that I died in a traffic accident in South Africa. So that's what he's talking about.
And not realizing that everybody that follows you in South Africa knows you're in the United States, and that can possibly be true.
Yeah, well, never mind the fact that I'm live 7 days a week on my program. I mean, that's pretty easy to refute it. I mean, ask me a question. I mean, I couldn't be AI. That'd be Max Headroom level AI. But it's so I made a song using artificial intelligence about the Colonel. They tried to take me out, but they were wrong. Anyway, so the song has been pretty popular, and I call it this is Radio Afterlife.
Oh. Does that go on the tune of "They tried to take me out, but they were wrong"?
No, that's not it. But
you said it, I thought it was gonna be, what was that song? I got high.
I was gonna go to work, but then I got high. Yeah, no, that's Afro Man. That's not the song. Yeah, but I get where you're coming from. Why you'd say that? Yeah, it sounds a little bit like that. No, but mine was what did we call that? Hang on a second here. I'm trying to find it. It's I do so many of these songs now with artificial intelligence that I have to go back into my library on another page here. Colonel Chris Lives On. It's a rap song. Yeah, no, we had a little fun with that. No, it's people do this to try to scam people out of money and things like that. So
yeah, we see that in our groups and stuff on Facebook. You get this famous actor died, and you look it up, and no, they're still alive and kicking and doing well.
Yep.
That's the first thing I do anytime I see stuff like that. At first, I start ignoring it, but then I'll go look it up if I'm curious, if it's something I'm interested in. But yeah, you're right. That's what it is. They're just trying to it's clickbait or
it's either clickbait or it's a scam to try to hoodwink or put some malware on your device, something like that. So yeah, it's pretty prevalent. But I mean, they don't do that to total nobodies. I mean, why would if you're a nobody, why would they make that? No one know anything about it. But there's been, since I hit 100,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, which is just one of the many places I appear. But since I hit 100,000, I've not only had that happen recently. By the way, that happened in the past too, but it just kind of didn't go anywhere. Now it's got a life of its own. People are shocked to find out that I'm still breathing. So that's happened since I had 100,000. And every day I get all these unsolicited requests to sign up for this service. We can make your channel do this. And here we want to do advertising and this, that, and the other. And mostly I just ignore that stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, they a while back ago they were swatting a lot of influencers on, say, X and stuff like that. Conservative influencers.
Yeah. Well, we saw them with Tim Pool quite a bit.
What's that?
Tim Pool, it happened too. They swatted him several times.
Yeah.
Like 3 times in 1 week once.
Yeah. So it wasn't just Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No. Oh, no. People began to question whether Tim Pool was doing it himself because it happened so frequently. I don't think he was, but that's what people are saying.
Ooh,
so
yeah, a way to promote yourself, huh?
Well, that'll be a way to also go to jail.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Don't get caught doing that nonsense.
No,
shouldn't be doing that nonsense in the first place.
Well, I mean, think about it. You call the police out to something like that. In the meantime, there's a gang shooting in East Philadelphia, and there's no cops to respond to it. So 3 people are dead, 9 wounded.
Yeah.
Did you see that video from Philadelphia, 4th of July weekend? These idiots, they're all pulling out firearms in this neighborhood. And it's, and people keep talking about this country and firearms. Well, it's a particular subset of culture that behaves this way. And I'll leave it at that. Take a look at what happened in Philadelphia. That was OK Corral sort of stuff. Indiscriminate, just wildfire in the streets. There was a kid there, not a kid, a young man, 24. He was paralyzed in a gangland shooting. He was shot in the back and paralyzed and wheelchair bound at the age of 17. He was 24. Over the weekend, he was in his wheelchair on the street, and I couldn't see clearly what was going on because there was a Ring doorbell camera that was showing the shooting. But he was across the street, and I thought somebody was stealing a tire because I saw something around. What it was is this 24-year-old kid trying to get out of the line of fire. He was shot multiple times in the back. How depraved do you have to be to murder someone in a wheelchair who can't escape? It's just and shoot him in the back. What cowardice!
Mm. Yeah. No, they don't care. They shooting him back don't mean nothing to them.
You're right. You're right. There's a segment of society that they have no value for life. And unfortunately, you find that in many countries. We certainly have it here in America. That's for darn sure.
Pablo was talking about how'd you get that race thing out of what he was saying? I didn't get that.
Because I said it's a certain subset of culture is what I said. So he derived race from that, which was not implied. It was not implied. No, he's deriving race from that. But since he wants to get on that topic, we'll just talk about that because I know where he's going with that. It goes back to the whole point about why so many black men are incarcerated. Well, because so many black men commit violent crimes. That's why. And they're disproportionately represented amongst our prison population because they're disproportionately represented amongst the criminal population. That doesn't mean black people are evil or that it's something that's endemic to black folks. It just means that there are an awful lot of people who are in those circumstances who happen to be black and they commit the majority of these crimes, certainly far outweighing their population percentage. And they occur in places like Philadelphia and Atlanta and Chicago for the most part. I mean, you don't see many mass shootings in rural Appalachia. It happens.
You hit it right there. I don't think it's much as one race commits more crimes than another race. It's more of where they're doing it. If you're going to be an inner city population, in high populated areas and stuff, and stand like a sore thumb, then yeah, you're going to jail. You're going to get caught. The cops know who you are. That's why a lot of people move to rural areas because it was harder for cops to do investigations on them. So I think a lot of it has to do with demographics and stuff like that. Like that St. Louis thing, some young guy who's black of skin attacks a white officer in the middle of the street because a white officer was telling him there's a curfew. You're not supposed to be out here right now. But the guy just committed a crime against the store clerk. What was this kid's name? And the kid went after his gun. In a scuffle, the cop shot and killed him. Caused riots and stuff there in St. Louis. I can't think of the kid's name, but
yeah, I don't know offhand who that was, but is it the what's that Brown? Was it Brown? Anyway, is that you talking about the hands up?
Yeah,
the hands up, Michael Brown or whatever, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was it.
No, people act stupidly around law enforcement. They wind up, causing chaos and getting themselves killed. That doesn't mean there aren't corrupt cops or dangerous cops, but most of these situations are avoidable. People simply follow direction. I was watching the other night. I was watching Jesse Stone again, and a hitman got pulled over. He's got a rifle in the back he wants to use to murder Jesse Stone. And Jesse Stone doesn't know the rifle's in the back of the car, but the guy's following him. So he gets tired of it. So he whips around, puts on the lights, woo, pulls him over, comes up and asks for license registration. And the hitman isn't stupid. He knows he's in a situation where if he does something wrong, he's going to get shot. So he says, "Officer, may I go in the glove box to get my registration?" "You may." So there you go. So that's, not get obstinate and belligerent with the police, which is what happens for a lot of people who are not raised properly by two-parent families and have no respect for authority, and they lip off and they do something stupid, or they pull a firearm and they get shot, and then the cops get blamed for it. No.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't want to be a law enforcement officer.
No,
they have to go through the way they get treated for it. I wouldn't want to be a cop. I mean, I praise them. I applaud them for what they do, and I appreciate the fact they're doing it. I don't always agree with everything cops do, but for the most part, 99.9% of them are doing a damn good job.
Yeah, and 99.9% of leftists are doing a bad job.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that's not hard to figure that one out. That's some pretty easy math there. Yeah, so the tariffs, a lot of people are starting to call them sanctions. They're not sanctions. You want sanctions? We can give you sanctions. We can embargo your economy. We can ban American companies from doing business there. We can remove you from the SWIFT banking system. We get all kinds of things. You want sanctions? Sanctions are available. These are simply tariffs, and a tariff is not a sanction. Anyway, it's just a way to level the playing field, which some people don't agree with, but they're going to have conversation. Interesting today, John, 5 African countries, 4 in West Africa, 1 in Central Africa, West Central Africa, went to the White House and had lunch with President Trump, and they all were polite and respectful. And one of them was a little bit, sucking up the teacher a little bit too much, but the rest were just stated their case and said, hey, congratulations on your term and being back in office and your deal you brokered to finally get peace after 30 years in Rwanda and in the Eastern DRC and Middle East and yada, yada. And look, we have something to offer. We're a small country, and the U.S. is the big boy on the block, but we've got things of value, and we want to be trade partners. We want to work with you, and we want to get investment in our country. And I'm like, this is what leaders do. This is what they did. Now, what they did behind the cameras, behind the closed door, who knows? But in the public, instead of the nonsense we saw when President Ramaphosa from South Africa came to the U.S. back in May, that was embarrassing of the highest order. That was something else. You got a guy who showed up 30 minutes late He made the president of the United States wait 30 minutes while he dithered and came to the White House at noon instead of 11:30. Unbelievable, pissing off Trump from the get-go. And then he goes in and a setup question. One of the South African journalists asked a question of Trump, and Ramaphosa says, "Oh, no, I'll take this. I'll take this." Interrupts his host, the president of the United States, in the Oval Office, and then answers. And the way he answers, he starts lecturing Trump. One of the viewers just made some comment about Trump lecturing people. Trump didn't lecture anybody. He was lectured to by a South African president who had no ground to stand on. And this South African president acting as if he's on equal footing with the president of the United States. I'm sorry to break it to you there, Mr. Ramaphosa. You're not on equal footing. You're not on equal footing. There are very few people on equal footing with Donald Trump. Xi Jinping might be one of them. And the list shrinks from there. So anyway, it's look, the world is getting a dose of reality with Donald Trump in office. And it's high time that the nonsense that's been allowed to be perpetuated for the last 40 years is exposed.
Yeah, no, you're right. That was Pablo made the statement about lecturing, saying that he should go towards economic deals and stuff. And
that's exactly what Trump is doing. He's ending aid and quit giving people fish and teaching them how to fish. He's working trade deals with African countries. That's exactly what today's lunch was all about. Was all about that. In fact, the guy sucking up to him was from Senegal. And he's like, I know that you're a great golfer, and maybe you want to build a golf course in Senegal, and we're setting aside 40 hectares of land for a digital city. We'd like you to invest in that. Bring your tech companies. He's sucking up the teacher, but hey, you know what? It might work for him. Who knows?
Right. But this is what Trump did in South America during his first term, is he went down there and he was telling them, says, yeah, we'd love to do business with you, but since you stop making your criminal problems our problems to deal with in the United States, we're not going to do anything with you. And he had them people cleaning up their streets.
Yeah, no, it's look. I mean, it's the thing is, John. I've talked about this before. I'm pretty sure on this program. I know I talk about my program frequently. I've lived all over the world, and particularly in Europe and Africa, and also in the Middle East. But in Africa, oftentimes, I'm walking around in uniform as a soldier, and people are kind of shy. And I said, "What's wrong?" Well, I don't like soldiers. Why? Well, because they exploit people and they rape and they murder. I said, "Those aren't soldiers. Those are thugs in uniform." And then I run into these pie in the sky leftists in Africa, but especially in America and in Europe. Oh, no police, defund the police, no police, have social workers. We don't need militaries. Do you live in the same dimension that we live in? I mean, the nature of human beings is there will always be somebody who takes advantage. There'll always be pedos. There'll always be thieves. There'll always be rapists. There'll always be murders. There'll always be somebody, a certain segment of population, psychopaths too, who have no compunction against doing these things to their fellow human beings. You cannot have a society based on social workers. You must have a deterrence. If you have a deterrence, then you reduce that sort of human behavior, which is abhorrent, to the lowest reasonable level possible. And that's the best you can hope for. But these people live in a fantasy world. They think that evil people will just be better if you just give them things.
These same people, Chris, want to take away your right to defend yourself. They want to take away your firearms.
Well, good luck with that. I mean, I've got more firearms than the Pennsylvania National Guard, I think.
I'm here to tell you the biggest deterrent is an armed household. Nobody wants to break into a house where you've got weapons and will defend yourself. Nobody wants to break into a house where you've got guard dogs.
What's the one thing that every school shooting in North America has had in common since Dylan Klebold?
Gun-free zone.
They're all gun-free zones, except for the murderers. They have guns. No one else does. And that's why they're able to kill so many people.
And that's what's problematic about it. But going back to your point, yes, if you're going to live into a state of anarchy where you don't have a real rule of law or a mechanism to enforce the rule of law, what you've got is an unfair and an unjust world, because really the world's not fair, nor is it just, nor does it care about your personal safety, right? Animals right now are eating other animals alive while we're talking on the show.
Yeah, one fish eats another fish, Lions and leopards and cheetahs are hanging around waiting to pounce or chase down their meal. Life is a competition, and people need to realize that.
In a civilized society, the people that have the greatest advantage are the ones that are criminals, because they don't follow rule of law.
Exactly.
And an uncivilized society where we have no rule of law, you're going to have the biggest of predators. People are not going to survive that kind of world. They're not going to.
And if you don't have a deterrent, a legitimate deterrent, that just encourages more people to behave that way. Some who would never behave that way because they can get away with it. And that's just the reality. And that's the world we're living in right now. And that needs to be addressed very quickly. Hopefully, they're looking into people like Comey and Brennan will get some people nervous, and people start obeying law instead of trashing our Starbucks and trashing our McDonald's and attacking our federal judges and Supreme Court justices and members of the Senate and Republican softball games and things like that. a deterrence is what's needed here as we wrap up this show for tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're just down to our last. Well, there it is right there, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes our show for tonight. We hope you got something out of it. As always, keep listening to WSMN or Colonel Chris Wyatt on his channel or TIBN. Have a good week and be good. If you can't be good, we'll be good at it. And we go home.